Hi, my name's Travis Tweeton, and I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about a subject that should emotionally provoke, anger, and universally horrify every one of you watching this. Now, I'm shooting in the car today because my kids have taken over my house, and this topic is definitely not appropriate for them, so if you have any around, you want to pause this video and come back at a later time. Hopefully, now that we're a mature company, I want to briefly discuss a combination of three things: prostitution, sex trafficking, and the commercial sexual exploitation of children here in America. Now, when the average person thinks about prostitution, they typically associate the lifestyle with a person's autonomous choice to engage in such activities. Rarely do they consider the fact, however, that most of the people engaged in prostitution actually began as victims of sexual abuse and emotional manipulation. Don't just take my words for it. Don't take the mounting accumulation of evidence elucidating the various pipelines and pathways into prostitution for it. Even if you don't take the countless victim stories of strategic grooming, manipulation, and abuse, you could take it straight from the book and celebrated manual with a 5-star rating on Amazon entitled The Pimp Game, an instructional guide written by famed pimp Mickey Royal. Here are some quotes. "A hoe's desire can't be fed because she has a need that isn't material: security, love, acceptance, confirmation of one's self-worth, etc. Just as young men join gangs for the same reason, a hoe exchanges something she can see for something she can't. This leaves the door open for exploitation, abuse, and misuse. A pimp becomes whatever she needs: a father, brother, friend, protector, child, lover, or whatever. His identity depends on her need. The hoe actually schools the pimp or the mac in the proper ways to exploit her. The hoe is the most exploited member of the game, but without the hoe, there would be no game. The hoe is the only member/player in the game that doesn't receive what she expects. She can't leave because tomorrow might be that day when that dream or fantasy she's chasing comes true." Okay, so I pulled these quotes off the abolitionistmovement.com because I'm not about to go and buy this trash, but you can find them on various websites around, so I know it's verified. Believe it or not, these sentiments are actually echoed, sometimes verbatim, from many of the convicted pimps and sex traffickers who've been interviewed over the years. So what's the purpose of me saying all this? Well, first, it's to highlight the insidious nature of this crime, and hopefully to stir you up into imagining, what if that young girl whose predators are working day and night to essentially wring out the very essence of her life and humanity in exchange for some cold hard cash was your daughter? She was someone's baby once, and now she's nothing but a means to someone's sexual gratification. And the statistics regarding whether or not she'll ever get out or die young of various causes associated with the lifestyle, or possibly even end up slain in a dumpster on the side of a ditch, are heartbreaking. But mainly the purpose of this talk is to quickly highlight some contributing factors that influence the proliferation of sex trafficking in America, to establish the fact that commercial child sexual abuse and exploitation is often hidden within the broader context of adult trafficking, and to offer 2 quick steps that are vital in the fight against this epidemic. Number 1, what are some of the modern day influential elements driving the increased supply and demand for sex trafficking, specifically the trafficking of minors? One factor is the advent of social media and sophisticated user-friendly encryption methods that provide not only an endless recruitment pool, but also a deep cover of anonymity for the exploiters. Simply put, criminals are getting away with it more, and they have a greater reach to essentially market these girls they're exploiting. When I tell you that local law enforcement and the FBI are basically just shoveling water out of a sinking ship, I'm not exaggerating. It's to the point where pop culture has made a meme out of known pedophiles and underage sex traffickers. I mean, really understand the fact that Jeff Epstein was given a slap on the wrist in the face of more witnesses and corroborated accusations of trafficking underage girls than probably a majority of the U.S. historical cases. And he went on to continue his trafficking ring for another 10 years before finally getting what he deserved. The point is this: lack of accountability and consequences is not only a contributing cause in this epidemic, but also a self-evident solution if reversed. In addition to increasing the funding for law enforcement departments that specialize in these cases, harsher punishments must be handed out to the convicted. I can't tell you how many reports I see coming out of places abroad where child abusers are let free only to rape and sometimes murder other victims. Yet they keep doing it, and sadly, we're setting precedent to follow here in America. The true nature of this crime and the fact that offenders often do it habitually necessitates longer and more permanent punishments. Now, there's absolutely no reason to put more children in our society, in our communities, at risk under the guise of compassion for offenders, especially if there be any doubt of possible recidivism on a case-by-case basis. Punishing crimes is not simply about rehabilitation, it's punishment for the perpetrator's actions, and it's justice for the victims who can never remove the trauma and experience from their psyche. Now, before you try and lull yourself into a false sense of security due to your location of residence or your socioeconomic status, it's my duty to share the facts. Although there are most definitely at-risk categories of youth, sex trafficking and the trafficking of minors is happening in every single state and region of the United States. There is no area exempt. On a personal and anecdotal level, I recently started making some extra cash by flipping items on the popular app OfferUp. Check out this ad I happened on a few weeks ago. At first glance, nothing seems off, right? Then you see the woman in the TV screen and you reread the description. Sure, I reported it, like I reported the more blatant prostitution ads that I can't show you on this video. Those ads advertising young men just across the border from me were taken down by virtue of the fact that the boys were shown naked from the waist down. This ad on our side of the border is more cryptic and therefore gets a pass. This is why the second starting solution in this short video is to proactively raise community awareness and education on the trafficking tactics and the psychology of victim manipulation. Take a look at that ad again and recognize the male pseudonym. Was that woman freely taking part in prostitution? Is she part of a trafficking operation? If so, would they take the opportunity to procure more victims via ad responders? It happens every day, all the time, and it's fostered by a lack of awareness. And too often, it's the victims that are caught and cast in the criminal justice cycle without actually getting the help they need. Misunderstood and emotionally dependent on their abuser, victims are often methodically thrust into substance abuse and dependence as well. As medical doctor and highly credentialed research author Jordan Greenbaum explains, many children have deep unmet needs that are exploited by a trafficker. The need for love, attention, father figure, etc. Remember that quote from Mickey Royal's book? A recruitment technique commonly used by traffickers is to develop a fraudulent romantic relationship with the victim, which can lead to very strong bonds despite the presence of violence and exploitation. Children may be unable to accept the idea that their boyfriend is exploiting them and may protect him or her by denying the exploitative acts or insisting such acts were consensual. For a better look at the grooming methods involved in the victimization of children and first-hand case studies, I'd refer you to a video on YouTube by Ryan Reese entitled Opal Singleton, Keeping Kids Safe from Predators, where the head of an organization called Million Kids gives an interview on her experiences, predominantly in suburban Southern California. I wish I could dive deeper and do the work of solidifying in your minds the connection between our culture's devolving view of sexuality and increased demand. How porn's fastest growing category is amateur, a type that's so conveniently filmed in the heart of our communities and can be a gold mine for exploiters, seemingly legally. Also the fact that the biggest marketing tactic is to emphasize barely legal teens to intensify consumer interest, and the quantifiable growth in underage, schoolgirl, and incest fetishes. Can anyone really argue the fact that these things aren't in and of themselves grooming kids towards sexual perversion, while simultaneously driving demand for the actual underage sex and the billions of consumers who favor pretend underage sex? I don't know about you, but just because someone's daughter just turned 18 yesterday and may still very well be in high school doesn't mean I think that arbitrary date gives her the ability to refrain from a potential onslaught of exploiters with propositions of fast cash to have sex on camera for the world. Even making that totally legal mistake can end you up in a cycle of abuse that so many people in the porn industry give a nod to or leave to expose. It's all connected. There are many ways in which children are sexually and commercially exploited every single day in America. Each individual case is predicated on the apathy, ignorance, or naivete of the community at large. This is not simply a problem for law enforcement or government officials. We must take it upon ourselves as individuals to be vigilant and fearless in speaking out and reporting suspected cases. Every boy or girl set free, every potential victim invested in and warned pre-grooming, and even every potential abuser can be affected simply by sharing this information with everyone in your sphere of influence and courageously speaking up when you see something is off. I hope at the very least I've piqued your interest into this societal tragedy because it goes a lot deeper than I can begin to explain in a 10-minute video. Start your own research and get involved. Thanks for watching.